Alright, I'm going to do a response video to a couple of dospook videos. I'm using Piro's, whatever he calls it, video timecode tool. Yeah, he's not very good at naming things. I like the software just because it looks like something I would do. As someone put it, it looks like ass, yes. That's my favorite kind of software. As long as it doesn't work like ass. But anyway, yeah, so the first thing I would do, Piro, is I'd make it so you can change the size of the viewer, you know, either through, you know, like configure it your own way or, you know, just some standard options. But definitely would prefer a larger viewer. Yeah, could come in handy. And you have plenty of space here, obviously. You have all this space here. Space to use up. So anyway, we'll hit the button and see what it does. And it should play the video, and we'll see. It should play 10 seconds of it. I did a lot of 10-second stuff, so I'll explain what the rest of the missing parts are. There, I clicked on it. I'm rendering a video, so it might not be his tool that's this lame.
Removing logical or reasonable human sentience, and since logic and reason and rationality are all things that apparently only humans do,
Ah, there it goes. Stopped at 24. It says 20. Weird. Anyway, yeah. Well, whatever. So he starts off this conversation like somehow the anti-natalists are out to destroy rationality and reason and intelligence, and that's the whole motive here, or something, or that's the incidental consequence. And of course it is. But if there's no need, if there's no want, if there's no desire, if there's no deprivation, then there's no need for any of that stuff either. That stuff only has function in the sense that it serves need. And I point that in a video I did it earlier, but the video's rendering now, so this might get posted before that. So we'll play the second clip.
We should also begin removing reason and reasonability and logic as a necessity, because the notion...
Ah, very good. Yeah, I don't remember. But the same argument. He just keeps making this argument like we're somehow trying to dispose of reason and logic and all that stuff. And again, the argument is if you don't have needful animals, if you don't have animals in distress, if you don't have rats in a maze struggling to get to their cheese, then you don't have to have intelligence to figure out an efficient way to give them their cheese so they don't get all cut up and banged up and they don't fight with each other. Yeah, you don't need to do the strategy thing, which is the entire basis for the existence of our intelligence. Is strategy.
Lingering intransitive is illogical. Then I'll say that the pain is bad.
Yeah, so this part, he goes into it more in the second video, but you know, in this one he's talking about this whole idea that somehow you have to defend the idea that pain sucks. It's just ludicrous. And he's basically arguing that pain is just an is, it isn't anything else. And it's just nonsensical. We all know what it is. We all know we want to avoid it really bad. We've denied ourselves things because we said, oh, the risk is too high. I mean, she's beautiful, but look where she's been. You know, that kind of stuff. So let's not play a game that we don't have an appreciation that there is the negative of life. The price of life is suffering, misery, discomforts of all manner, shapes, sizes, threats to our comfort. I mean, see, this is the crap you have to do. These are intelligent people, and you have to be reduced to using 17 adjectives to describe something because they're going to try to bend the words into something they don't say or mean. Really irritating.
Habitually, it is habitual to assign pain a moral context of badness.
Yeah, well, it's not habitual, it's rational. So again, you can say it's habitual. It's part of what we've acquired as knowledge. Computers don't sit there and scream something. You know, they don't say, I'm suffering, I'm thinking, I'm feeling, because they're not thinking or feeling. They're just programmed. We are two machines. One of them creates this illusion of sensation and feeling and unsettledness, attraction and repulsion, and the other one does the computer thing, the logic thing of figuring out the best way for us to navigate the world so we maximize our comfort and minimize our expenditure of the currency of suffering. So again, I'm playing these little buttons here, so it's working so far. Good job, Piero.
I believe monism is a more appropriate philosophy to take. I would want to put that forth and say that the Benatarian argument is simply not compatible. And it's not compatible because...
yeah, this is the second video. I don't know why I got on the second one first, but whatever. It doesn't really matter, right? You don't really care. But anyway, yeah, monism. What's the point of this? So now he's going to basically argue again that pain is just an is. We can't qualify it as a negative, and it's so fundamental to everything we describe as harm, everything that makes something bad. And so there's no way you can do that and still understand what a Holocaust is or understand anything. There would be you couldn't even make an argument saying it would be wrong to enslave 90% of the population to give extraordinary comfort to 10%, because you've broken the basic fundamental value equation, that there is a quality to life and it's important, and the quality is made out of this quotient of discomfort, misery, suffering, psychological pain.
And by ascribing deprivation to a non-existing thing, so he's already using an intransitive and cloaking it with imagination, hence making it a lingual or imaginary transitive. So it's an
Yeah, well, this is just nonsense. So by this logic, you could, arranged marriages never took place by this logic, because people didn't say things like, okay, yeah, my firstborn child will marry your first daughter, blah, blah, whatever the thing would be. By this logic, we could sell or trade our sons and daughters into slavery because they don't exist, they're not going to be slaves. I mean, it's just nonsense. Of course, we know there's going to be a future. We know when we roll the dice that yes, the end result doesn't exist when we roll the dice. Okay, you haven't won or you haven't lost, but you know when you go to Las Vegas you're going to win or you're going to lose. You're going to roll the dice and a number's going to come up, and there's going to be an implication to that number coming up. So the implication is an inevitability, and it's just nonsense to sit there and say because it doesn't exist before you rolled the dice you weren't gambling. Of course you were gambling. I mean, it's like Russian roulette. You're playing Russian roulette. The bullet hasn't penetrated a brain yet. It hasn't killed anybody yet. No crime has taken place, but you know the bullet's going to come out of the gun, and you know one of the two players is going to be dead. I mean, it's just a fact. Come on. This is just a word game. A stupid, time-wasting word game.
Yeah, so the idea of consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, and addiction. We can remove reproduction because, unless we're just referring to the mitosis and the reproduction of the cell.
Yeah, I don't even know if this is worth dignifying. I mean, we're back to some kind of dopey pyro argument here. The point is, we know what happens. People make a willful choice to allow their biology to reproduce, just like you could allow your emotions to make you go out and strangle somebody, or just like you can make your desire, your pent-up anger or frustration compel you to rape somebody. You can allow those behaviors to take place, and what happens is you suppress them because you have knowledge that would be wrong, or you have knowledge of a negative implication, or that you don't want to be arrested. I mean, let's get real. There's lots of crimes people have not committed merely because they knew they would get arrested and put in jail, and they didn't want to get arrested and put in jail. So let's again not play a game as if we don't have control over the end result of the product. We choose by assigning the risk, by accepting the risk when we engage in the behavior. And it's just bullshit to say because the end result hasn't taken place yet, there is no end result. There will be an end result. There will be a product. This is just fucking silly evasions.
Cannibalism is a subset of consumption. and we can then say that consumption
that's
is a type of movement. Interaction is a type of
pause. Yeah. Well, that's again you're just playing a word game again. Okay. I mean, consumption has a key definition to it. It's not just a way of consuming. It's a specific way of consuming that has tied to it this idea that you are going to consume something of maybe equal value to yourself, and over a lifetime that you may consume the welfare of many, 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 many sentient creatures and cause them much, 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 much harm, and that is a negative thing. And so it's an important word, that we are cannibalizing the sentient. Not just that we are cannibalizing, but that we are cannibalizing something that has the key ingredient that we say is cherishable.
Type of movement. Interaction is a type of action. And action is a type of movement. And so that interaction...
Yeah, so he wants to reduce everything to interaction, and it's just, there's no point in doing that. These words all mean something. Consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, and addiction. You can't just turn addiction into movement. Okay, addiction has its components. It's created by psychology, and the whole point of the argument is that the addiction is entirely contrived by a DNA molecule, not contrived by an Einstein theory, not contrived by some sort of mission statement written out on a blackboard and explaining why there's a great dynamic here. No, it's contrived by a friggin' molecule, and that's important. That's a really important detail.
And stop using logic the best we can, the same way that I want to say, let's just stop as much suffering as possible right now, ASAP.
Well, again, that's not the point. The point is just to get the job done, and get the job done using our intelligence the most efficient way possible. Obviously, the most efficient way possible would be to have a conversation with every human being on Earth, explain to them the dynamic, and they would say, oh yeah, I get it, it is all kind of silly, I might as well just satisfy my desires and be done with this desire game, because yes, if you look at the whole game, it really is stupid. There's all, at the end, you got a few standing pieces, and the rest of them are all, bloody and messed up. Yeah, more pawns than kings or queens, so yeah, it just doesn't really work, so screw it. That would be the non-friction, perfect, straight line way. But that's not going to happen, so yeah, it's going to have to be a fight, and there's going to have to be battles, and there's going to have to be arguments, and people are going to have to be insulted, and all this other kind of crap, and that's the way we're going to do it, because we can't use our intelligence. We can only use it as the circumstance dictates, and the circumstance isn't going to allow us a perfect solution, so we're going to have to accept something less than perfect. We're going to have to accept some friction, but we can reduce the amount of friction using our intelligence.
Like agenda to remove logic from existence is perhaps the title. Thank you.
Yeah, well, whatever. That that argument is like, yeah, we're gonna, the consequence of curing cancer is, we're going to unemploy doctors or some kind of idiot nonsense like that. It's like somehow we're going to create a false negative. To make it seem like the positive isn't positive. No, the positive is positive. You're just creating a false negative, a fake one, one that doesn't exist once the circumstance is cured. Once there's a cure, you don't need, the threat of unemploying all the mosquito exterminators when you've cured malaria. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't need the exterminators anymore. So it all becomes moot. Yeah, that's the word. Alright, so this is the video I should have played for. Oh, it's 14 minutes. No, this is the second one. Holy shit, he went on for 14 fucking minutes? Didn't say shit. Alright, well, let's go through it. So far, so good, Piro. Working pretty good. So I'm going to hit this little play button again. And we'll see what happens. It's not playing. There it goes.
Right. As an example of this, the first premise of Benatar's argument is that pain is bad, right? And that this lock on that equation of is to state that it is the case that pain is bad overlooks the idea that pain may not always be bad, right? The next equation, pleasure is good. I don't know.
Yeah, well, this argument means absolutely nothing. This is like arguing that sometimes being a drunk driver is very advantageous because you go out and you drink and drive, and you guess what? You kill a child molester. And so you saved a kid from getting molested by the creepy child molester because you killed them because you went drinking and driving. So the idea that you're going to say that something, because once in a while or in aberrant circumstances, there is some incidental double negative or double positive or some other circumstance created where a negative becomes a positive because it eliminates more negative, does not make the initial negative positive. It just doesn't. It doesn't make it in general anything. So it has nothing to do with the game itself. We are describing the game. We are not describing one particular circumstance where the game was played on a crooked table and all the pieces slid one space to the left. Alright? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the average game played over the long history of time. So you're, again, just playing little word games. Little fucking weaselly word games.
Supposed to create a static truth, right? And I already disagree with that. Pain is not bad. Pleasure is not good. So right out of the gate, the two premises don't seem to work. The reason I
should have stopped at 249 and went to 256. Kind of strange. But anyway, yeah. Well, so there's a non-starter there, right? I mean, do you really think that you're going to make that argument to the 99.99% of human beings and they're going to get it? They're going to say, "Oh yeah, I get what he's saying there. Yeah, pain isn't bad. Yeah, give me a few buckets of that." I mean, yeah. I mean, they got it on sale at the store. Can I buy some extra? You know, can I fill my cabinet full of it? I mean, please, this is just silly. We know the currency of life, and pain is the currency of life.
Is, right, I give is, it is what it is, I think is the truest argument about the case of things. It is what it is, and then how about this? It's all good. It is all good, right? Let's monize the binaries.
Alright, okay, and exactly how is this somehow different than a God delusion or something? It is, I am that I am. I'm God, I don't have to explain my existence, I just am that I am, fuckers. I mean, this is just bullshit. You can't just sit there and say pain is what it is, period. We're not gonna qualify it any further than that. We're not gonna explain its function in 4 billion years of evolution. No, we're just gonna say it is, it's a given, it always will be. You can't apply a value to it because somehow we've slid the most important thing in the universe off the value table. I mean, it just makes no fucking sense whatsoever. I mean, you're gonna later talk about taking letters out of the alphabet. Well, taking suffering, misery, conscious discomfort off the value table, you might as well take the numbers 1 through 9 out of arithmetic. Fucktard.
Meaning, whatever our reality is in the end, whatever our truth is, whatever we state after all arguments, after everything is said and done, what...
Yeah, so again, so he's just saying that pain is what it is, blah, blah, blah. So, sorry, I probably needed some more of that one. So we don't have like a zoom button there, do we? Well, I guess it's somewhere, but I don't know where it went. Where did it go? Where did the little notey thing go? Where did the whole friggin' thingy disappear? Well, I don't really need it. So, how would it?
Things that don't exist. So the argument, a non-existent being can never be deprived, therefore X, Y, and Z. But a non-existent being can never not be deprived either. You can't even deprive non-existence from a non-existent being because you can't even...
Yeah, so again, so this argument is just so stupid. Again, it's arguing like you can't prevent, there's no prophylactic measures you could take to prevent something, and that's nonsense. Of course, you could prevent genetic disorders by screening for them, or even augmenting somebody in utero or something. So, and we know that education changes destinies. So again, you know you're going to prevent something if you educate somebody, so it would be almost theoretically impossible for them to make a certain mistake, because you explain to them that, yeah, you don't blow in a tiger's ass. You know, so they could have that knowledge, and now they won't go blow in a tiger's ass and get their fucking head eaten off. Oh, fuck.
What we would say is human potentiality is the same thing as pointing to pink unicorns, right? We can draw it, we can paint a picture of it, we can...
So again, I'll just reiterate the argument. It just goes on and on, trying to disconnect us from the future, trying to disconnect that reality as not existing. So for 4 billion years, there was a reliable connection between the actions of the people living in the present and the fact that there was a future, that they were implicating a future through their behavior. And for 4 billion years, that connection was solid and always existed, and he's saying it doesn't exist, that there is no connection between us currently and what will be tomorrow, as if tomorrow doesn't exist, because tomorrow hasn't happened, it doesn't exist. And we all know it will, in all likelihood, 99.999999999% sure, it will exist, it will come, and it will look as we make it. Fuck, this is just inane to have to explain this shit.
Right? And so to point to this non-existent thing and to say it cannot be deprived, well, it cannot also be not deprived. So right out of the gate, pain is not...
Yeah, well, whatever. You're not going to sell, I don't think, anybody on the idea that pain isn't a thing. It isn't a something, because everybody knows it's pretty fucking something. So that, you know, it's just, you got a non-starter there. And this idea that people are going to be incapable of understanding that there's a clear connection between our actions and the future's welfare is, again, undeniable. So you can't just disconnect from the fact that there is a right now I could make phone calls, and I could purchase myself 1,000 rats, and I could plan and have it all set up to slowly and methodically murder them tomorrow. Their welfare exists. It's there. Tomorrow's welfare is right here now being decided. So it's just bullshit to say that they would not be better off if I don't make the phone call. Of course they're going to be better off. Jesus Christ.
Right. Just on the very surface of it is something that we've learned to do, right? It's part of like an absenting of, the idea of deprivation is a notion of taking away.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just the taking away, it's the taking away without notice of the taking away. The hunger regenerates, okay? The sense of deprivation is the default state. The body tends to go there. It tends to drive us, and that's the motivator of all our movement. All this interaction you speak of is driven by creating a state of deprivation. We do not interact, we do not motivate, we do not move or interact, do any of this shit unless we are driven by something that puts the seed of discomfort in us, the seed of I'm not settled until this is settled. Damn it.
Non-existent, non-referent potentiality that we want to assign a signified to, even though it's an abusive and intransitive, right? Because there is no thing, there is no, unless you're religious and you believe in a pre-existing...
Yeah, so now he's going to call it religious to think that 10 years from now people will exist and they'll have a welfare that we should be conscious of. So we shouldn't use up all the fuel and eat up all the food and destroy the planet because, yeah, they're going to have to live in it. So, I mean, like I said, by this logic, nobody would clean up their garbage. Everybody would just, burn their house down when they're done living in it. I mean, this is just idiotic. We know the world goes on. There will be a tomorrow, and people will have to live in tomorrow. So this is not complicated. And he's just playing word games and using some nonsense. Intransigent. Well, fuck that shit. It's not a ghost, idiot. It's going to be a reality. And going to be a reality is just as good as is a reality. Alright? It's the stuff that was a reality that's sort of irrelevant.
Gone. Right? That very statement. You can only reference what is. Language allows us to reference what is not.
Yeah, whatever. So you're just arguing the future isn't. And every bit of evidence we have says the future is. The future will be. It is. So it's just bullshit to say the future will not be. That's where the default, or that's what the preponderance of the evidence indicates, is the future will not exist. No, the preponderance of the evidence indicates the future will exist, so we might as well consider it as a real thing, and there's no logical reason not to. It's just as important as the present, logically.
Just think of the phrase, you cannot deprive a non-existent thing, right? You can also not deprive a non-existent thing. You can only deprive or...
Yeah, so again, you're just playing a game with words, right? So to use a double negative and say you cannot not deprive says absolutely nothing, because you've already eliminated its existence. So you can't double eliminate it. So your double negative doesn't mean anything. The fact is, if there is no deprivation, there is no harm. That is how you define harm, is creating substantial deprivation of comfort, denial of comfort. And the more denial, the greater the denial of comfort, the greater the significance of the negative. And so quite obviously you can't be deprived if there's no way for something to take from you. I mean, come on, this isn't that complicated.
Is. Now, call me a hippie, call me the dude, right? But it's all good. Meaning, even if it's bad, it's all good.
Mind if I call you the poo instead? I mean, come on. It's all good. So that's what you throw in the face of this world. That's what you throw in the face of being, chomped to pieces by an alligator until you drowned or something like that. I mean, yeah, that's the best you can do. It's all good. And that's going to be persuasive to who? I mean, yeah, I'm sure you can find a little clan of loonies who wouldn't mind going to the zoo and playing with the crocodiles and seeing if they can drag them into the water and chomp them to pieces while they drown. So, go for it, fucker. Yeah, I'll pay for your ticket.
Pain is good. Pleasure is good, right? Suffering is... right? It is what it is, right? So if it's not good, then let's just make it an intransitive.
Yeah, let's just pretend it doesn't exist, and that's all you're saying. Let's just try to some way or another eliminate the fact that there's a real price paid for this bullshit we're calling life, and it's not a trivial price. Although you want to make it one. So, that's, in my opinion, it's just disgusting. It's revolting. So good luck selling that. And like I said, I'll watch your comment section. We'll see how many lovely, charming people buy into your argument that suffering is nothing to worry about. Because I think you're fucking insane, plainly. So anyway, enough said. Yeah, nothing much you can do with this crap. I say wacko. That's all I say. Wacko. Wacko the clown. I think some little clowny face on there. Wacko the clown. Yes. Alright, enough of the video. Alright, till next time and such. So, Bureau, it worked pretty good. Yep. Know what I kind of would like is to be able to do multiple videos in here. To have this list and reference different videos. So you could play different videos, clips from different videos, and you just hit one button and they all play in a row. Yeah, that would be good too. If you're watching. I'll do a better feedback video after I've used it a few times. But yeah, so far so good. I didn't do any notes. I could have written notes here, but it's really not my style. Yeah. Sorry, till next time.